Hi there, my name is Jalen Paulino. I did my research study on the use of video modeling and differential reinforcement of high rates of behavior to increase the frequency of volleyball passes for a 10-year-old. So the purpose of this study is to help my participant acquire the skill of consistently bumping a volleyball to their partner um, because she wishes to join the volleyball team in this upcoming school year. And in order for her to do that, she has to have the skill of passing the volleyball because it is a very important fundamental skill to play the game. And so she is a 10-year-old neurotypical individual. The study occurred in her backyard. It's in an enclosed area about 10 feet by 20. Um, and previous research has shown us that the use of video modeling um, in, can increase a skill, can increase and teach a skill, and also with the use of a task analysis. But for this study, we're using differential reinforcement of high rates and that video modeling. And so I used a changing criterion experimental design where I changed the criteria for each phase so that she can meet that number of bumps in a minute. Um, and the data was collected on a sheet of paper that was printed out and created by the experimenter. In baseline, that involved just the experimenter tossing the ball to the participant and the participant controlling that pass back to the experimenter. And a controlled pass is just defined as the ball coming back to the experimenter um, without taking more than a step forward or to the left or to the right or backwards to catch that ball. And then in the intervention phase, we incorporated using the video modeling no more than 3 minutes but prior to the session. And when she met that criteria set, social praise was also delivered after meeting that criteria. Um, so in phase one, I set the criteria to 12 because the baseline for that the baseline phase, her average was about 10, and so I increased it by two. And I found that she was the number of her passes was more than that criteria. So for phase two, I went ahead and changed, determined a different criteria rather than just increasing by two. I increased by the average of that first phase by 20% and then that number adding it to that average. So for phase two, the criteria was set, I believe, like 21. And so the results. In baseline, the average controlled passes were about 10. When the intervention was placed in phase one, the number of volleyball bumps increased above the criteria set. Again, that's why I changed my criteria to a much higher amount because of what that phase one showed us. In phase two, the number of volleyball bumps were a lot closer to that criteria set, and it ranged from 18 to 22 bumps per minute. And as a result, I found that the intervention does not have that direct impact on that change in behavior, that increase in volleyball bumps, suggesting that our interventions were not directly in control of that change in behavior. What I've learned from this um, what I learned from this project or this research is that these two interventions, so video modeling and differential reinforcement, did not for that change in behavior. Um, and and that could be due to one, how our environment was set up. So if it was rainy, I recognized or I saw in the data that that number of bumps decreased. And it wasn't as high as like the sunny days. Another limitation is the lack of sessions I had due to it being summer break and the length of this class. And so I wasn't able to carry out an intervention phase so that we can get more of that stable data. I had to change phase almost immediately, even without that stable data. So that's one thing I would do differently if I was to do this study again, is to um, wait for that stable data before making the changes to the next phase. Um, the results of this project for future treatment can help those who are interested in sports and using ABA and the strategies used in ABA to teach a behavior or teach a skill. This can show that maybe video modeling and differential and DRH is not, the combination of the two is not sufficient to increase the behavior. But video modeling, as previous research has shown, that video modeling could work in teaching new behaviors or increasing new behaviors. Um, the future direction of this research could also be, if I was to do it again, I'd probably do a combination of a different strategy, such as like self-management, or even choosing a different experimental design. So doing a different, maybe a multiple baseline across environments and seeing like which environments they, um, this can be helpful in. Um, let's see. Yeah, and so that's what I found with this research. This is what my data shows. And in the future, I'd probably, if I was using video modeling to teach a behavior, I'd probably do it with um, another strategy, or even use it in combination with a different strategy, another evidence-based strategy that we can see that works, and that way we can help with um, teaching a behavior that we want to see. Also, um, I think that the results of this study of my study also isn't what I wanted to find. Um, because maybe the increase in volleyball bumps were the um, higher than the criteria set as the sessions went on, because we know that in sports, in order to gain that fluency, it's that continuous practicing. So that could have been the reason why we saw that increase in in controlled passes versus the intervention itself affecting that behavior that we want. And those are just some limitations that could possibly be from this study.